Well, first of all, a week after the collapse of the Stormont talks, we can reveal the contents of a document exchanged between the parties. It comes not from the DUP or Sinn Féin, but from a journalist, Eamon Malley, who published it on his website within the last hour. Brian Rowan's been working with Eamon on digging out the contents of the document. So, Brian, first question, what exactly is the status of this document? It has draft written right across it. There's no date on it. So where and when does it date from?
Well, I suppose the first thing to say, Noel, is at no stage of this negotiation did anyone at Stormont tell me that they had a done deal. There was talk, as you know, 2 Fridays ago of progress having been made, but significant gaps. So this document relates to that evening, February the 9th, 2 Fridays ago. And we have seen correspondence that involved named and senior members of the DUP and Sinn Féin on that date, February 9th, and that correspondence under the heading draft agreement text. OK. Now, there's a big section, section 2, about respecting languages and culture. At the very start of that, there's a 10-line paragraph saying we have reached an accommodation on a package of language and cultural diversity legislation. It goes on to mention 3 bills, but it has big square brackets. In the language of these documents, that means this is not agreed. That's right. And you've heard the term, I don't know how many times, Noel, that nothing's agreed until everything's agreed. Now, there's a description of that paragraph that what is not agreed is the presentation of the package of legislation. Others may say that it's more than a presentational issue. And we know the argument that started to develop at the start of last week. Sinn Féin insisting that this agreement would deliver a standalone Irish Language Act, and a series of interviews then by Arlene Foster saying that her party would not have a standalone Irish Language Act and they would consider it a deal breaker. But what we see in this document are the 3 bills that you mentioned. One covering Irish language, Ulster Scots, and then a respecting language and diversity bill. Now, the Sinn Féin version of those 3 bills is that they become 3 acts and that you have on the statute book an Irish Language Act. The other interpretation of that is that the 3 meld somehow into one. And that's the DUP version of events, that this becomes a package of legislation in which nothing stands alone. Now, what else is mentioned specifically in it? Well, let's talk about a number of the issues that have been at the heart of this standoff for well over a year. So marriage equality, for instance, is not resolved within this negotiation. There would be a private members' bill if the Assembly was to be restored. But there is no certainty that it would not be blocked by a petition of concern. So that issue is unresolved. One of the other Sinn Féin... Although it does say that the recognition that no single party can call a petition under the new mathematics of the Assembly. That's right, you need 30 signatures, the DUP have 28, but there is the possibility that 2 other unionists would sign the petition of concern. We know that there is to be a review of the petition of concern in the event of an agreement. We know that there's no Bill of Rights, but that there will be a committee that would look at the Bill of Rights. And I think one of the other unresolved issues and one of the gaps that still existed, one of the square brackets that existed, was a date for that committee to report. Then you go into other issues within this negotiation. And I think there were separate conversations going on between Sinn Féin and the NIO, specifically on the question of legacy. And that would have been around the legacy consultation on the Stormont House Agreement of 2014, money for legacy inquests. And I'm told that in the event of an overall agreement, the British government would have removed from the legacy consultation here that controversial question about a statute of limitations. Another separate issue, and I think this is important, Noel, as well, is... You've been... Sorry, Brian, time is short, of course, as always. Yes, sorry. You've been talking to a lot of people about this. What do you think happened between the 9th of February and the 14th? Well, I mentioned to you to begin with that no one was saying to me that they had an agreement. And there was a concern that if this document that was on the table on the 9th was taken away for further consultation, then it could unravel. I quoted someone saying the mice could get at it. And there is a view that that may well have happened. Because you had this document on the 9th, 3 days later on the Monday, you had the Prime Minister in Taoiseach at Stormont, which raised another expectation that we were very close to agreement. But I just wanted to make a couple of other points in terms of what would have been in it. Arlene Foster, in the event of agreement, would have been First Minister. And one of the big concerns that the DUP had was the sustainability of the political institutions. Martin McGuinness resigns, they fall apart. In this agreement that was being worked on, in draft form, if there had been a resignation at the top of the executive, there would have been a longer period of time to resolve differences. An initial period of 6 weeks and then an additional period of 18 weeks. So that gives something to the DUP on that sustainability question. The other thing the DUP were talking to the NIO about was the military covenant.